Hey, and welcome to Dad Describes as we take a trip back to my childhood and review Bill and Ted Face the Music. Stick around to the end of this video where we discuss if Bill and Ted actually has a much more complex meaning than what we would normally think. This is a really entertaining franchise that helped launch Keanu Reeves into the actor he is today. I am really glad he decided to reprise this role and not take himself too seriously with what he's accomplished in Hollywood, becoming an action star. It's really nice that he decided to pick up this role. 2020 is a madhouse of a year, and it was really nice to watch a film that, as far as I could tell, really didn't have any political agenda to it. There will be some spoilers here. I'm not going to go into any major reveals, but I am going to hit a few plot points to talk about this movie. Okay, so the good. If you liked the Wild Stallions as a kid, this is a fun movie to revisit simpler times. It delivers on being a Bill and Ted adventure, and I enjoyed the experience. These guys are like having those two old friends that you haven't seen in forever, and when you see them, the conversation just picks up where it left off like no time at all has taken place. For those of us who are getting older, I think this movie kind of takes us on a day trip into what life might look like if we didn't take ourselves too seriously and just kind of pursued our dreams no matter the cost, but the teenage version of those dreams. And yeah, the result is, as expected, kind of not pretty. For Bill and Ted, this means that as they hit middle age, they find themselves in marriage counseling. For me, this is probably the funniest scene in the whole movie. You have these two middle-aged men that are kind of mentally still teenagers, trying to deal with counseling and saving their marriages, and it's just a complete lack of maturity. And speaking bluntly, as a guy, it's kind of true to life. Overall, it's a fun adventure that doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's worth the watch. Okay, so the bad, which really isn't that bad. While I enjoyed the fact that Bill and Ted haven't changed a bit, it might hurt the story that these guys just haven't grown up that much since the last adventure. I get it. It's a Bill and Ted movie. It's not about complex. But on some levels, these characters just kind of get held back by it a little bit. The main problem that I saw with the movie was possibly, I think it was lazy writing. Much like the DC or Marvel movies, it's this whole multiverse thing. And it's just like everybody in Hollywood's like, well, we don't know what to do. I know, multiverse. Another problem I saw with the writing was that there was just too many plot points of contention to deal with. You've got Bill and Ted versus their music, Bill and Ted versus their wives, Bill and Ted versus the future, Bill and Ted versus the multiverse, Bill and Ted versus their children and them trying to be good parents. The actors do a great job, but the script reads through kind of like an amusement park experience as they're trying to just tick off all of these challenges. Overall, the story just, I think, had too many plot points and could have been narrowed in just a touch. That's just my opinion. You might think it's perfectly fine the way it is. I've given you the good, I've given you the bad. Now, what about the deeper? Is there some theological aspects to this movie that Bill and Ted seemingly being kind of a, two-dimensional, is it really four-dimensional? Growing up and even now, I've always kind of felt it was interesting that the Bill and Ted movies play around with the theological. They've visited both heaven and hell in these films. One of the plot points of this movie is that their daughters are killed and wind up in hell. Bill and Ted make a pit stop to hell to go rescue their daughters. It's interesting to me that there's an acknowledgement that hell exists. It's not somewhere they ultimately want to be, but they seem nonplussed as individuals or parents to avoid this outcome in their day-to-day lives, or for that matter, their children. Ironically, Jesus is walking around in this film in various scenes, being kind of ported through the multiverse. And they see Jesus, but nobody really seeks him out for the answers for anything about what's going on. It's an interesting conundrum for me, because what's the point of saving the multiverse or the universe if your destination is ultimately hell from your daily living? Remember, truth and what is really important in life might just be looking at you from the most unlikely of places. I encourage you to seek out truth with everything you have, whether it's in movies, entertainment, politics, cinema. Look for the core values that drive your life. Seek out what is really true. What is also true is if you would like to help this channel, feel free to smash the like button below and consider subscribing. Remember, no one listens to Dad until your multiverse is collapsing, and Dad tells you you might need a healthy dose of Jesus to fix your problems. And until next time, be excellent to each other. I am Ted Theodore Logan.